Air quality isn't the first thing that comes to mind when you think about chess and esports, but it affects our focus, decision-making, health, sleep, and more. What's in the air you breathe? Find out with Air Things. Breathe better. Live better.
Let's take someone with a random account, with a random name that just seems attractive.
Play live online against the world's top chess players while they stream their thoughts live. As a Chess24 in-depth teaching, analysis and interviews. The Champions Chess Tour, with countless accompanying events, is happening now. Tune in on Chess24.
Take your chess to the next level with carefully selected collections featuring some of the best video series from Chess24. Save up to 60% or go premium and access all series while having all other privileges of premium membership. Learn more at chess24.com/deals.
Watch chess tournaments online? Don't just watch. Go to Chess24 and make it an interactive learning experience. You get live commentary in multiple languages, including different streams in English from beginner to expert. It's not just commentary, since there's also an interactive live board. Choose your game and try out your own moves. All moves by the players get near-instant cloud analysis from the latest chess engine, which will also analyze any move made by a premium user. Open the tab Opening Tree. It contains a database of 500 million positions from historical games. Has the current position ever occurred before? What did the best players play? The database tab lets you search full games and load them on the interactive board. There are many more tools for chess learners and experts. Come to Chess24 to watch all the online experience.
It's time to take control of your journey towards chess mastery. Magnus Carlsen introduces Chessable, the definitive solution for no need to set up a board, remember which page you're on, or keep track of all the moves you miss. Move Trainer empowers you to go from the opening to the end game with confidence. It's a seamless, effective, and fun way to study chess. Choose from one of the largest online chess libraries in the world, with hundreds of titles ranging from classic books through to our exclusive Chessable courses, including over 100 free courses. Get expert insights from International Master John Bartholomew, Grandmaster of other instructors. Get started now and join our growing community of over 100,000 chess enthusiasts at chessable.com. Chessable, take control of your journey towards chess mastery.
Super discounts on merchandise every day. Visit chess24.com/deals.
Hello everyone, I'm Erlami. I'm a Grandmaster from the Netherlands, and in this video I'd like to give you a little peek inside what is my latest course for Chessable. It is part of the by now famous lifetime repertoire series of Chessable, and I made a repertoire based on the The first question, why did you decide to do a course precisely on the Caro-Kann? Well, that's I think a very easy one for me to answer. While the Caro-Kann hasn't always been my main response to the moves, I played French, but the Caro-Kann was always there somehow already from an early age. So to me it made a lot of sense, especially since there was not yet a full Caro-Kann repertoire on the Chessable website yet. I thought I should jump in, grab this chance. Several world champions. I should mention Karpov, obviously, who played it his entire career. Botvinnik, who used it in no less than 2 world championship matches. He played it against Smyslov in the world championship match and against Tal, both with very reasonable success, I should add. Yeah, so it's one of those openings that I simply I have a soft spot for, so to speak. What kind of opening is Caro-Kann? Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I think it underwent a bit of a metamorphosis. It's kind of different, and also we will see later the repertoire I have laid out for you. It's become much more sharp than it used to. Definitely, also if you see the players, just the modern players employing this opening regularly. They're all fighting players. They're not out to make a draw with the black pieces. So it underwent a bit of a metamorphosis, and definitely that old saying that Caro-Kann was a boring opening, it can go out of the window, I believe. So I think the reputation has very much changed over the past few years, and it starts right here. After e4, I'm being learned to play the move c6. As you can see, there is some text on the right explaining some history on the opening, on the Caro-Kann opening. After e4, I'm now supposed to play the move c6. Now white will play the next move d4. That's what I love about this move trainer. You first get to see it, you can incorporate it in your system, and then we get to repeat it. So let's see, after d4 I am supposed to make the move d5. I think I get this far. After e5 you see the text once again, some explanation on bishop f5, why it's the most popular move, etc. I should add that at this point, because the move 3e5, the advanced variation, is in my view one of the most important. The other one is the move c6 to c5, the pawn push to c5. So both of those moves are covered in the course, because I feel that, especially this is a lifetime repertoire after all, you should be able to switch around a bit, especially in important main lines. Let's make a few more moves. e5, bishop f5, knight f3. This is the first chapter. It's based completely on the move 4, knight f3, and after e6, knight b2, c5. Well, let me just finish this particular part. dc, bishop takes c5, knight b3, bishop to b6. Now you immediately get trained. Do you remember what you've been taught? Well, it would be a big shame if I don't, but I think I still managed this this one. And yeah, I thoroughly hope you will enjoy it. And please do let me know what you think about the course, and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Good luck going through this course. Thank you.
Welcome everyone to the finals of the FTX Crypto Cup, and champion taking on Wesley So. Now the American Grandmaster so far has proved to be just how top in his, and he's had a phenomenal performance in the FTX Crypto Cup as well. Let's quickly chat before we get on to talking about all the action that we're expecting and all the predictions that you are going to tell me about. Let's take a look at what happened in the semifinals. This was such a matchup, both the matchups incredibly, and with that, qualified for the finals. Now, on the other hand, Magnus Carlsen on day 1 had a level score despite drawing first blood in game 3. Raja struck back, and that ended in a tie in In day 2, the final set of the semifinals, Magnus started with a bang, won the first game, and also game 4. It really felt like Raja playing with the black pieces in that final game. Tried to make the most of it, going in for that hippopotamus line, but didn't really get anything out of the opening. And final up with his big rival of the Champions Chester, Wesley So, and of course, Jan Nepomniachtchi and Temur Rajabov will also be fighting. The fight for third place will also take place today, with all eyes on Magnus and Wesley. Now, let me pull up chat so that I can ask you all the things that I want to about today's matchup. So, tell me, first question, who is Team Magnus and who is Team Wesley? What do you think is going to happen? Now, I know that Magnus is a big favorite, whichever match he plays, whatever game he plays, despite what form he has. But let's not forget that, ask me how he does it, but despite all of that, he cruises through to the finals, finds himself there. And that's what Magnus said in his interview yesterday, that despite not having a great flow in his game, the only thing that matters is that he is through to the finals. So chat, is it going to be Wesley or is it going to be Magnus? I've got my eyes on chat. Let's see. Wow, quite a few Wesleys there. Magnus wins. Magnus, sorry, but anytime Magnus. I completely get that. I completely get that sentiment, but I have to say that this is, for me, okay, let me wait a bit more before I tell you what my predictions for today are. Magnus. You guys really believe in your world champion. I have to say that it's quite interesting to see that, because Magnus and Wesley have played 2 finals in the Champions Chess Tour so far, and Wesley has won both those finals. Magnus finally beat Wesley in a match in the Champions Chess Tour, but that was only the fight for third place. Will Magnus get third time lucky in this final? I have to say that, it's kind of divided, chat. You guys, it's a 50-50 chat here. It is a lot for Wesley. Team Cemento for the win. I completely agree with that. Magnus and Wesley, it's very 50-50. I see that in chat. I have to say that I am going to go with not a very hot take, being a bit diplomatic here, but keeping everything in mind, and just the way that Wesley has been playing and the way that Magnus has been playing, and keeping that past result in mind, I'm going to go with a 55-45, with a 55-45 favorite here. And just give me a minute, chat. Yeah, I'm back. So, yeah, really tough to say. Now, second question. We've got a big fight for third place as well. Jan Nepomniachtchi, super aggressive, a gifted tactician, never goes for the easy stuff on the board, always looks for camp complications, is up against Temur Rajabov, who we know is super solid, super difficult to find anywhere to break the position with him. Great preparation. What do you think about that one? Who is going to take third place in the FTX Crypto Cup? Is it going to be Jan Nepomniachtchi or is it going to be Temur Rajabov? Let me see what chat has to say about that. Hakan saying that Magnus is the greatest along with Kasparov, Tal, Capablanca, and Fischer. Good point there. I think we've discussed this so much about who is the greatest player of all time. And I think in general, comparisons don't work because chess just continues to evolve over generations, and chess just continues to evolve with every world champion. And each of them was just super strong in their own time, in their own era. But Jan, Nepo. All right, so a lot of you believe that Jan would be a favorite in the Raja-Jan matchup. That's quite interesting. And I think I get that because it's really his style of play that we all love watching. And of course, we're going to have a very, very angry Jan today on the board after losing that semi-final to Wesley. I think in set 1, he had some really, really big chances, which he messed up. I'm not going to get over Jan missing rook a3 check in a long, long time. And I'm sure neither is he. All right. And of course, as always, a lot of you are saying the stream is lagging. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but of course, we're going to take care of that at our back end. Mosquitoes will beat Jan. That was a bit crazy, right? Jan didn't only have to deal with the Wesley attack, but with the mosquito attack as well. So many crazy jokes on the internet about the mosquito gambit, the mosquito attack. Very entertaining. But let me tell you, chat, any player, especially with limited time on the clock, and we saw what was going on camera. It was almost like a tragicomedy going on. So that was funny for us, but definitely not for Jan. That is a little bit of an underestimation at how good and how strong Wesley is. Let's also quickly now, before the action, we've got about 14 minutes before liftoff. Let's just discuss the format. It's the same throughout the knockout. We're going to have 2 sets. Set 1 is today, the final set tomorrow, and they're going to play 4 rapid games in each of these sets. 15 minutes with a 10-second increment, and only if the match is a tie after set 2 do we go into the playoff. Do we go into the playoff, which will have 2? And if my memory serves me right, we haven't in this event. And I would love to see this match go down to the wire. I know it feels a little strange when you've got an Armageddon deciding the winner of this very, very strong FTX Crypto Cup, but I have to say I love the thrill and the action an Armageddon game brings, and I've definitely been missing that in this tournament. What else is chat saying? You know, it was funny. A lot of you talking about the mosquito incident, and I'll tell you the funniest thing that I read on the internet was something like, if Magnus shows up at the World Champion dressed as a mosquito, that would be the end of the match. And that was just, I have to say, internet is funny. Internet is a funny place. But yeah, definitely, I think we saw in set 2, Jan managed to keep that in control, but Wesley was just so strong on the second day. Lots of you mentioning Judith in chat, and I have to agree with that. In fact, yesterday on the whole thing about which player you would want to take with you to the moon, my pick was Judith Polgar. I saw the answers a lot of you posted on the quiz of the day with some great prizes there, really. Some very, very creative answers there. So well done. I know, right? It was a really nice joke about Magnus coming dressed up as a mosquito for the World Championship match. I shouldn't be saying these things on the stream, I feel. Let's quickly take a look at the road to the final that these 2 players have gone. Wesley So finished the preliminaries with 9 out of 50. He finished at the 5th place, but let me tell you one thing, that at no point was there any doubt that Wesley was going to make it. Just absolutely pragmatic. He won just 3 games. All draws. In fact, out of the 29 games that Wesley has played in the event so far, he's unbeaten. So that is a massive unbeaten streak by Wesley So throughout the FTX Crypto Cup, the only player to not have lost a single game. This is Neil saying this is more exciting than the World Championship match. I actually really like the format here with all these 16 players. We saw a lot of thrills, a lot of misses along the way. Let's get that screen back on of their road to the finals with Wesley So. So after that brilliant performance in the preliminaries, he moved on to the quarterfinals and cruised past Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. Maxime never got a chance. Wesley just made it look so simple. On day 1, he won 3-1. On day 2, he wrapped up the match in just 3 games. How does he do that? He's playing against Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, and he does it. He makes it look so freaking simple. In the semifinals, we saw all the action that happened. Wesley was, for the first time in the entire event, in a little bit of a trouble in that day 1, but he managed to keep things completely different narrative. Yes, Malcolm, he looks unbeatable. Wesley looks unbeatable in this event so far, and as we've been saying, the only player who hasn't suffered even a single loss. And let me tell you that with this field that we have playing in this tournament, in 29 games, to not even lose 1 game, that is insane. That is some insane high quality chess. Let's take a look at Magnus's road to the finals. And Magnus ended the preliminaries with a lot of drama till the very last moment. It was not confirmed if Magnus was even actually going to make it to the knockout stages. We had Peter Swidler with us yesterday for his expert analysis for the commentary. And if you remember, in the preliminaries, he was winning against Magnus. And in that rook pawn and in that endgame, there was rook and knight endgame. He missed a small tactic. Magnus managed to get out of that. Had Peter Swidler managed to win that game, the entire narrative of the tournament would have been different. However, after all the drama and up and down, Magnus finished with 2 losses in the preliminaries on 6th place and went on to set up his match against Hikaru in the quarters. In the quarters, he beat Hikaru, and that went on to the tiebreak. We saw the blitz match where really Hikaru completely according to me, looked totally out of it. That was a Magnus Carlsen show, those two blitz game, and he won 2-0. In the semifinals, of course, we remember, we've seen all the action from yesterday. He beat Temur Rajabov, and these have been the journeys the two players have had so far. Quite contrasting, really, while Magnus incrementally coming into shape throughout the event. Wesley, from the very beginning, keeping it solid, taking advantage of every opportunity that he gets. Now, of course, we're going to be joined by Peter just very, very quickly, but we still have a match starts in less than 10 minutes. Yeah, about 8 minutes to lift off. Tanya's favorite word is insane, Randy. You might have something to that, not just when we're analyzing, but I think in life in general. I do tend to use that word a lot. So you've got a point in there. It could be my very, very favorite word. Peter the legend, of course, he is in the house and he's going to join us in just a few minutes. Thank you, Vinod, for your very, very sweet words. He's coming, chat, of course, for all. And how can I forget? Oh my God, I still have a few minutes before liftoff. So I know a lot of you, I've been telling you to check out the Opera browser, and I'm going to tell you what we started the tournament with 100K worth of Bitcoin. Let's see where we are just one day before the tournament ends. So I was mentioning to you this the Opera browser, which I have been using since the Champions Chess Tour. They are the official browsing partners. And I made the switch for the tour. And I have to tell you, it is a really personalized and a very, very, a really nice browser. I'll tell you what extensions I have on my screen. So I've got IG, I've got WhatsApp, and I've got Messenger extensions. And plus it's got a built-in VPN. So it's all very cool. Let me quickly tell you how Bitcoin is doing today, because that's always super interesting. 21K. So the 2.1825 Bitcoin, it will be converted to whatever is the value in cash and then given to the players in prizes. And right now it is 2.1825. It is roughly, I think, coming to about 71 point something K in US dollars. So a bit of a crash there. We still have a little time to see how Bitcoin picks up. And I see with that, every time I start talking about crypto, at that moment, Peter always chooses that moment to come into the conversation. Now, let's bring him on. Peter, I've been trying to convince you from the very beginning to join Twitter. After this tournament, do you think, I don't know about Twitter, but will you be joining the crypto space?
Well, hello, this enthusiasm. Well, myself at the moment have so many other things to think about, you know, that I don't know exactly if I have a mind for it. Because one thing I know, that whatever I do, I want to be fully involved, and I want to be in with my heart, and I want to understand what is happening. And I'm not sure if at the moment I have some extra energy to get something new, but for the future, who knows?
That's actually great advice for everyone watching and thinking about getting into crypto space, that don't follow the trends, just see and try and get fully involved, try and read up on it. So many different cryptocurrencies. It's a very fascinating space, and for now, definitely looks like the future. Peter, we had this amazing interview with Raul Pal in the Oslo studio, and he mentioned that one of the things that really connects chess with crypto is how similar they are in their strategy and approach. In chess, you can't have a short-term vision. You can't play just move by move. You need to have a long-term plan. You need to understand that it is all about the long-term vision. And it's the same with crypto. You can't be thinking about an everyday trade. That's not where the action is, but simply about building and what is going to happen in the future.
Well, very interesting, but I simply, since I don't have enough information, and here I certainly feel myself like a complete amateur, complete beginner. So I'm just listening, and then, okay, slowly I'm going to start building up my own opinion.
All right, well, while we're learning about crypto, of course, with Peter, it's all about learning about the chess action. So let's talk about the match that's coming up, an epic final, a rivalry that we've seen throughout the Champions Chess Tour. Peter, Magnus taking on Wesley. What are your expectations from the action today, and who is going to be the winner of the FTX Crypto Cup?
Well, it's certainly, this is the third final that they play against each other during the Champions Chess Tour. but I think it's the very first time that Wesley has the first pieces in game one. So there is some kind of a Magnus using the fact that you finished ahead of him in the preliminaries and you just want to put him a little bit under pieces. And in this regard, I'm curious to see whether Wesley will try to apply the same strategy that Magnus is usually using from the white side, in the first game, that he wants. Very, very interesting.
Very interesting. And Peter, just here for comments, and chat is mentioning it's a match between an immovable object versus an unstoppable force. That's quite interesting. And I remember the first time this phrase was used that at least to my memory was the match between Magnus Carlsen and Vachier-Lagrave, the 2013 World Championship match, where
we have seen that whenever Magnus gets the feeling that he's controlling the match, he's dominating the match, then it's very, very difficult to stop him. And we have been seeing that Hikaru was always up on the score, but finally when Magnus overcome the difficulties and took the lead, then already Hikaru seems to be like the unstoppable player, because he's like controlling and getting more and more confident. So it's very much all about this who strikes first. And that's going to be super exciting and super interesting to see, but also how much risk they are ready to take, because in order to finally draw blood and win a game in such a level between these two players, I mean, finally, basically how you can win a game by delivering some very, very big new opening idea, disbalancing your opponent, or putting later during the game some really big pressure on the opponent. But if you haven't really been able to get something out of the opening, then it's very difficult to build up such a pressure where these guys with all this confidence and with all their knowledge finally tumble, maybe in the big time trouble. If suddenly the position gets completely out of control with little time on the clock, of course, no matter how strong you are, it's automatic that one of the sides will make an error. But it should be first the aim, I think, to deliver some blow in the opening, try to seize the initiative and put the pressure like this on the opponent.
All right, and because I think we should be lifting off any moment now, Peter, really quickly, opening predictions. Wesley starts with the white pieces. So are we expecting one e4?
Yes, I think it makes a lot of sense. Wesley has been playing a lot of e4s throughout the tour and had been quite successful with it. The big question is that we have also been seeing Magnus now playing more and more the Berlin defense. It's one of those things that usually forces the white player often to abandon his e4 intentions. This will be very interesting to see if Wesley will come up with some Italian sidelines, but he was already using them. It will not come as a surprise to Magnus. In this regard, I don't know exactly. The challenging Magnus in a Berlin endgame, also not entirely sure. We have seen Wesley from the black side playing a lot of okay, so I already thought like Wesley played d4, but no, that's in Teimur Rajabov Jan Nepomniachtchi game. That's the first game where there is a liftoff. Will we see a Grünfeld? Yes, we see a Grünfeld. I mean, there is no surprise here. And for the moment, Wesley has also played his first move. We're going to jump right in there. It's e4.
All right, and now the big question, is Magnus going to go in for the Berlin? Is he going to play e5? He's gone for it. So he is saying, show me what you got. A bishop b5. I'm expecting a Berlin. I think with the black pieces, Magnus would be happy to neutralize. And look at this. Wesley says, I'm not giving you a chance to get into any Berlins. I'm going to go for the Italian.
Yes, it makes perfect sense. Simply, and we see again this rare line, which...
Oh my God, Peter. Oh my God.
No, I mean, this is the line which Wesley wrote his chessable course. I mean, last year, and he started using it in Skilling Open and Airthings Masters. He was very much into this Italian line. But then against Magnus, he managed to surprise him. And also, Anish had a game like this, I think, against Magnus. But now I cannot really believe that Magnus is not ready. I mean, I'm pretty sure that Magnus should be ready.
Bishop e3, Magnus goes into a little bit of a think. He's also munching on some snacks meanwhile. So, of course, going to be interesting what he has in mind. And also...
But hang on. We got breaking news. I mean, look at this.
Breaking news.
Teimur Rajabov, Jan Nepomniachtchi sees this. I mean, we see again this Grünfeld line with knight d2, knight b3. I mean, I feel like the attention was drawn by this Grishuk game, yeah, this knight d2, and ever since the players got very attracted to it. I don't know what to say. It's I mean, the Timur doesn't want to risk with the white pieces.
I think that's putting it very, very mildly, Peter, that Temur doesn't want to take risk with the white pieces. I am just wondering if you're going to see the same kind of motivation for this third place that we saw, this third place fight that we saw in the Shakhriyar-Levon match in the New In Chess Classic, where we had so many decisive games. But of course, with Jan and Raja, the big question about whether we'll have a fight at all or not will depend on how motivated the players really are. And Peter, because we will, of course, this will be our game for the next for as long as this lasts. But maybe just let's go back to that draw one time. And I know you hate such draws and it absolutely pains you. But for those who are not familiar with this Grunfeld draw, let's just do a play-by-play and see how this always ends like this. And what was different in that Grishuk game that Jan actually managed to win by going into a worse position?
Yes, exactly. I mean, this is the super solid and stable, and knight f3 bishop is actually a very, very ambitious setup as well. Black going for the move queen a5. Now there are two different things. We have been seeing, I think, Grishuk against Vachier-Lagrave played the move queen d2. This is the main theoretical move. Then black plays knight c6, white plays rook b1. And the game featured, I think, something like a6, rook c1, c takes d4, c takes d4, queen d2, king d2 in Vachier-Lagrave from the black side won. And maybe this is exactly the reason, you know, if that game would have gone differently, maybe white players would be very interested to try and test black setup. But this is often the case, yeah, that we have seen some brilliant preparation there by Maxim Vachier-Lagrave, and then white players said like, okay, so if my opponent probably wants to play this, he knows his stuff, he prepared this, all right, so I don't care, I'm gonna play this line with knight d2, and then after the move castles, white opts for knight b3. I mean, this move knight b3 is very, very unpleasant for black. I mean, unpleasant in the sense that if you are happy with the draw, and usually with the black pieces you are happy, then you just take on c3 and you have no problems, because after bishop d2, queen b2, there is no way of trapping black's queen. You cannot play rook b1 because then black can take on a3, black can also go to a3. I mean, you are not chasing this queen. But the problem is that, yeah, white simply plays bishop c1. The queen has no square. You have to retreat to c3, and then white plays bishop d2. Black is very happy because, okay, drawing with the black pieces, it's nice. But from white side, I mean, why do you play like this? It's a little bit a question, a big mystery. But the other problem is that black doesn't have a choice, because after knight b3, we have been seeing that game Grishuk against Jan. And their Grishuk choice was absolutely justified, because he knew that Jan was in a must-win situation. So basically for him, taking on c3 is not an option. And in that game, we have seen Jan spending 2 or 3 minutes finally going back with the queen to c7, which loses the pawn on the spot. But since knowing that in that game, Jan needed to win at all costs, he was ready to take immense risk, basically playing pawn down. He has a bad position, but with some gambling chances, and it paid off. But of course, you can do that only once. And even then, you need a miracle that it works. It works. So yeah, now, of course, for Jan, there was just no reason not to go for queen takes c3.
All right, well, in that one it worked. This has ended in a draw. Now it's all eyes on the big game. Magnus Carlsen, Wesley. So Wesley with the white pieces going for the Italian. Peter, queen c2 on the board. But let's just back up and do a move by move, how we got here, and break down all the ideas and plans that exist in the position. We've got the live board with us on the bottom right corner. Let's go through the game and the action in our analysis board.
Yeah, so basically with bishop c4, we see the Italian happening. Bishop c4, bishop c5, c3, knight f6. We have been seeing this whole line between Magnus and Hikaru in their match. But there Magnus always played with d3 setups, and sometimes he even refrained from playing c3. So basically he was often using the move order castles, and after knight f6 going for d3 and not committing his pawn to c3 yet. Yeah, now in this, because Wesley had the intention of going for this more forcing sequence with d4, attacking the bishop first. So taking on f6 doesn't make any sense, because then black takes on c4, and black actually ends up in a clearly better position. So the whole point is bishop b5. Now black jumps with the knight to e4. Happily, of course, the knight belongs to e4. White takes, c takes d4. Black plays bishop b6. Very, very important. This bishop on b6 putting pressure on the d4 pawn. That's the weakness in White's camp. So white goes knight c3. Black castles. Bishop e3 stabilizes the d4 pawn. Magnus goes for bishop g4, pinning the knight. This is a very, very important resource in black's play, putting pressure on the d4 pawn. And this queen c2 is kind of the new fashion. It's there already for like 5-6 years, but especially last year it was picked up again, or like last 2 years was picked up again on the highest level, especially in those rapid blitz games. So bishop f5, securing the knight, not abandoning the e4 knight immediately. White has to move, so white moves queen b3. And now Magnus opts for this knight e7. I think he haven't used this move order yet. This is something of okay, we see it's not really preparation. Probably Magnus knew that this plan exists, but he hasn't really played it yet. And obviously he wasn't eager to play it as well. He just did not expect this line to be repeated by Wesley. And c6, bishop e2 on the board now.
I'm actually quite surprised looking at Magnus's clock, the amount of time he's taken. We are being told that this exact move order is also in Wesley's course of the line. Not just that, this is quite the critical way that things have moved forward in this theoretical discussion of this Italian setup. So quite a little strange that Magnus is down to 10 minutes on the clock. Wesley more time than what he started with. So when you're playing the final, you definitely expect Magnus to be better prepared, especially in an opening in which Wesley has taken out a Carlsen and goes for the same setup. Now, if we just back up to the moment when White played queen c2, there is an idea where Black can actually try and destroy White's pawn structure. Let's just have that up one more time. And to get tempted to go bishop f3, gf3 here, yes, you spoil the kingside pawn structure and you can go back knight g5. But here, I think this is just so dangerous to open up the g file. White can even sacrifice the f3 pawn, go long castle. There are several moves that White can play here. But the whole point is that even if you get the f3 pawn, the counterplay on the g file, White's two bishops, it's not something that Black wants to go for. On the other hand, the other option except knight e7 in those positions is to go bishop f5 directly, asking the question to the queen, where do you want to go to? Now, queen d1, bishop g4 would just be a repetition. But as we can see in the main game as well, Wesley did not have those intentions. He's always wanted to go queen b3. So Magnus includes the move knight e7, and this is what we've been seeing. This is what we've been seeing in this theoretical discussion throughout this move order, forcing Black's bishop to fall back, and only then Black retreats, bishop f5, moving that queen from attacking that e4 knight, and after queen b3, c6, bishop e2. This is the live position, and I'm also being told that there is a slight interruption on our live stream. So chat, we are trying to fix it. We're trying to fix that, and just stay with us, and we'll be back in a few seconds. All right, so what is going on here, Peter? We are trying to fix that lag, and I think it will be done in a couple of seconds. Let's just take a look. Bishop e2 played. What are Black's plans here, and how does Black continue? Is f6 the kind of move that Black wants to play in this setup to break open the center?
Yeah, I think it's quite obvious that, yeah, Black has two moves that he would like to play. I mean, one of them is like knight g6, follow it up with f6, or to start with f6 immediately. The big question is that how does White react? I mean, what is White's plan? I think White's plan is actually to go knight a4, hitting the bishop on b6, because the bishop cannot really retreat, then the pawn on b7 will be hanging. And by eliminating the bishop on b6, the pressure will be removed from the d4 pawn. Yeah, that's kind of the key idea from White's side. And then he will say that, you know what? Yes, Black is active on the king side, but if I will manage to stabilize my construction, that long terms with the two bishops, and potentially kicking away that knight from e4 with f3, White could hope for something. For example, if Black would play the move f6, yeah? And why I'm saying like f6 and knight c6, they go together. They don't really work alone. Yeah? If you play f6, I go knight a4, and now if you take f takes e5, let's say I can, okay, take on b6 or take on e5, not important. Okay, I can take first on b6. a takes b6, knight takes e5. I just want to illustrate the point. Like now already next move, white gonna play f2, f3. Kicking a bishop will be long-term a very, very effective piece. You might be going bishop f2, bishop gc, and then get something on e5. I mean, those are the strategical ideas behind white's position. If, however, black would be able to play f6, knight g6 together, yeah, like for example, after knight a4, I would say like knight g6 is the move here. White takes on b6 to get a nice square for his knight on f3. Yeah, he doesn't want to take on f6 because then he would give the tempo on black side, and otherwise you don't really have a useful move. So basically, I'm expecting something like this. I'm expecting even maybe I can say this exact move order to happen in the game. And then
take
also
a look at the clock. Take a look at the clock. What is going on? I mean, he's just out of the opening. Magnus down to less than 6 minutes.
yeah, well,
Very shocking.
To be honest, the way also how Magnus is sitting there, I almost get the feeling, and yeah, Magnus goes rook b8 finally, but I almost got the feeling, you know, like he has made his move and he's waiting for his opponent to make a move, but in fact he didn't make any. Yeah, that was exactly the impression I was getting.
When you mentioned the way Magnus was sitting, I thought you were addressing the elephant in the room with the whole Magnus wearing this very formal shirt with clearly shorts and coming for this game.
No, I don't know all these finesses, but I mean,
finesses, I love how you call them finesses.
yeah, well, I mean, I simply don't know. I just was like wondering that, yeah, how on earth, I mean, we have seen Magnus playing very, very practically usually. Yeah, I mean, he tries to play quick, he tries to make sensible moves, but I mean, basically he has spent 10 minutes already in a 50-minute game right in the opening. And if he wanted to play like this, you know, if he would have just today morning spent like 20 seconds, like what will happen in this line? Do I want to play like this? Maybe I'm just going to play like this. Then he could have exactly at this moment 16 or 17 minutes on his clock. Yeah, it's those are the differences that he did not address this question, and maybe that was a very big mistake, because losing 10 minutes for this standard, I mean, for all those standard moves, looks like a very big luxury.
The other question he definitely didn't address was what he was wearing to the match tonight, because that's a really funny situation there, what's going on. But yes, currently, let's get back to the action on the board. So rook b8 played. We were thinking that black wants to go f6. The move rook b8, what it hints at is that it defends the b7 pawn. And he's saying that if you go knight a4, I'm not going to give you my bishop. I'm actually going to fall back with my bishop to either c7 or to a5, eventually getting f6 and opening up that diagonal. So
I'm expecting that the reason why this rook b8 move hasn't really been played, that white has some very energetic ways, like maybe trying to target the bishop with knight h4, I mean, hitting the bishop to retreat to e6, but then some new questions appear. I mean, there are many reasons why actually, if you are not prepared and you are just thinking over the board, then before playing rook b8, you really have to answer many questions.
But he had to play something. I mean, going into that big long think and taking this. Now, Wesley going into a think tank for the first game since the opening, it just seems to imply that this is not the accurate way for black to play. Who's not familiar with the position, goes into a big think tank, and that seems to imply that it's not the accurate way to handle the opening. But knowing that it's not the accurate way to handle the opening and making advantage of it, taking advantage of it, finding the right way to make it count are two very different things.
Exactly. I mean, first of all, if it would be so easy to understand why rook b8 is not the most precise move in the position, then I mean, then Magnus would have not played it. Yeah, so it's clear that he was thinking, you know, he was spending like 5-6 minutes or even more on this rook b8, and finally he maybe over the board got attracted to it, that hang on, why am I not able to play like this? Why am I not supposed to be playing this move, which is so natural? My opponent doesn't really have a plan. He wants to get my bishop with knight a4. I make sure that I can remove my bishop, and otherwise let white speculate. Yeah, that does he want to go knight h4? Because this knight h4 is also such a move, like it's not entirely clear if it really benefits white. Yeah, it just.
But you're gonna absolutely hate it. The second game in the Yan Raja match has also ended in a draw.
Yeah. Yeah, I have seen it, you know, I have seen it, and for the moment I was a little bit all these repetitions. It was Queen E2, and there was a little hope, you know, like, aha, maybe Jan finds some tricky line and he wants to try for a rapid game, but apparently not. And this brings me, you know, very much these thoughts what you already mentioned, that the big question is how motivated are these players? Yeah, because we should not forget that they played an incredible. Yeah, it's always, I think for the final, it's very easy to play because you know that you are playing to win the tournament and you get all the extra energy. But with the disappointment, then suddenly you start to feel the tiredness. Maybe your motivation drops and you might have this feeling like, okay, let's
hate it. I don't know. I know you're trying to, everything you say makes a lot of sense and it's completely understandable. But I remember the match we had between Shark and Levon and the kind of fight that they put on. And I think that's what we love as chess fans. And two back-to-back draws out of the opening. I don't know. It just feels like
okay, I want to take it slow and I don't want to risk anything. Let me try to put my opponents under pressure that please show me what you got. And then suddenly when both white and black does the same, it basically encourages the players. Yeah, it basically shows them that, aha, okay, hang on. My opponent kind of agrees with this kind of policy. And then they go in the finals. Finally, we see that knight a4, bishop c7, knight h4 played. So two knights on the rim. But these knights make a lot of purpose. Yeah, white forced black's bishop from b6 to retreat, and now with knight h4 he wanted to force h4 with f6, because after bishop e6 f3 would now actually suddenly trap black's knight on e4.
So actually both knights on the rim, but not very dim, both threatening the bishop. And as you pointed out, after knight h4, the big threat is not just the bishop on f5, but suddenly f3 ends up trapping black's knight in the middle of the board. So black has no time to save that bishop. He goes f6. So after f3, what black wants to do is go back with the knight to g5.
Well, I'm also trying to figure things out. I don't believe,
because fe5 doesn't
but hang
look
on,
like it would be enough.
b5 is also a possibility. Is b5 a move or not?
b5, f takes e4, b takes a4, hits the queen. Let's take a look, Peter. That's a nice spot. Over here, if you take the bishop on f5, let's see that line first. After knight f5, black can actually take knight f5. fe4, ba4 would be bad news for white because the bishop on e3 hangs as well. The queen on b3 hangs as well. So after f6, if f3 is played, b5, attacking knight c3, black's knight simply trades it off and picks up the e5 pawn. So f3 is stopped by black's move f6. So white chooses the move bishop f3 instead, which has got a big threat. Bishop f3 also attacks the knight on e4. White is threatening to go knight f5, take advantage of the pin along the a to g8 diagonal and go bishop e4.
Yeah, this bishop f3, I, however, have to say, like, if I would have not seen it happen, and you would have asked me from white, what do I think, what are my candidate moves? I'm not sure it would have crossed my mind. I mean, somehow it doesn't feel so natural, yeah, because the whole plan was to try to play f3. On the other hand, we are bishop e4 win the piece, so this puts pressure on black. Yeah, black goes b5. I mean, this b5 move, I think, had to be played. It's the part of Magnus's concept. I mean, if we can call it concept, because I think it's probably over the board improvisation, but nevertheless, when Magnus finally opted for rook b8, I think he had to foresee this whole b5 idea. And only once he discovered this, then he could convince himself that, okay, maybe let me try like this, try to play like this.
Take the knight also doesn't seem like something that white wants, allowing black's knight to get to f5, which means that the knight on a4 needs to move now.
Probably not losing the pawn, but yeah, it does, because finally, I mean, after all, white can also capture with the queen, yeah?
But there's b4?
Yeah, there is b4. Yeah, there is b4.
And then it's hard to keep that.
I mean, what are the on knights? Yeah, but no. I mean, at some point, white will probably have to capture the recapture. Let's first check this. Yeah, knight takes f5. I capture on e4, you take on a4. It seems to work just as well as in the previous line. So I can't do this. So after we take on e3, this white's pawn structure, and again, there is nothing to talk about. So hang on. Yeah, Wesley jumps back with the knight to c3. And then what? After knight takes c3, yeah, this is the other moment that you can capture here on f5. But again, it didn't really make sense for me because knight takes f5, knight takes f5, queen takes c3 again gives black a lot of options. I don't feel like white is playing for an advantage. So I'm very, very curious to think his time. I mean, Magnus is not blitzing his move. It means that something disturbs him. Something disturbs him. I don't know. You feel like you have a natural move to play, then you just want to blitz it out immediately.
Okay, let's take a look at some lines here. So what is the follow-up after knight takes c3? Are you going to because e takes f6 I don't think can be the move here.
E6. Okay, that was at least the only move which I did not manage to mention using. Like even if
we're going to go into a short break and fix this technical issue that we're having with the lag. So chat. All right, welcome back, and the action is on, and hopefully the lag is fixed, chat. Desperate came up with the idea that is ef6 a possibility, and it turns out that it is. It's the one that Wesley chooses. Magnus down to 1 minute and 15 seconds. This has gone very out of control for the world champion.
Yeah, time-wise, but feeling-wise, I think that black has a wonderful position. It almost looks like a brilliant strategy from Magnus, like thinking and making Wesley believe that he's confused whatsoever. And the strategy would have worked perfectly if it was really planned. But unfortunately, I think that it's not. And Magnus, going down to 1 minute in move 19, I just cannot even imagine. I'm not even sure if there's issues with the clock. But what is and now opting for bishop e4.
Bishop e4 played. Now, Peter, let's just quickly show why queen c3 was a bad idea. I think we mentioned it once, but let's just recap that moment. Why ef6 was perhaps the only move to keep that pawn on e5 alive. Queen c3, you defend the e5 pawn, but only for a move, because after b4, as you can see, white has got no good square for the queen to go to, and wherever the queen goes, black goes on to win this very crucial and very critical central pawn. So with that in mind, Wesley took e takes f6, and Magnus replied with bishop e4. White would want to calculate, but that runs into bishop f3. You trade that knight, you trade that bishop, and then knight e2 check, or the knight comes back to e4.
Yeah, well, there are many questions. First of all, just why I'm surprised about this move bishop e4, that I was kind of expecting that black might just play the move knight, but knight e4 did Wesley want to take knight takes f5, because one of the lines like f takes e7, queen e7, knight takes f5, rook f5, perfectly fine for black, because you are kind of setting to take on f3. You have some incredible initiative going on the knight e4. He was confused by all this capture on f5, but also this capture on f5. What does this do? So knight takes f5, knight takes f5. If bishop takes e4, I can again teach. Already tries to be ambitious. I don't know exactly, because after all, this knight on h4 is a very special piece. Yeah, and that it's hanging, but the knight on c6 is hanging as well. But if white takes on e7, then black has all kinds of initiatives. Yeah, like queen e7 hitting the knight on h4, and you have all these problems. So I'm a little bit confused what is happening. Bishop e4 on the board. So maybe just take this knight. Yeah, just take back the knight on c6.
I think you have to, because after f takes e7, queen e7, picking up that bishop on e4, there are all these options with knight e2, as we were mentioning, picking up that knight on h4, attacking this h2 pawn, threatening mate on it. So this looks very dangerous for white to actually go for f takes e7 here.
Natural of trying to reinforce the center. On the other hand, it blocks white's queen in the defense. Yeah, so that's why b takes e6 is not really a move that you want to play. And now it is Wesley's turn. Yeah, look at this. I mean, how difficult and how tough this position is when these guys are burning the clock. Yeah, they don't want to burn the clock, but they just, you know, the position is so out of control. Also for me, I'm kind of having trouble mentioning any move because it's easy to say some move, but where it leads, it's very, very difficult to kind of understand. Yeah, finally, B takes C3 on the board.
And some more Temur Rajabov really in a rush to finishing off their set one. Quite surprising, Peter, especially from Jan, because he was so critical about Wesley's play throughout, about going for all those draws, but he doesn't seem like he's in a mood to fight today at all.
Yeah, well, okay, so far he has had 2 black games, yeah, but also with the white game he didn't do one. But okay, let's just ignore that match until they do all these draws, and let's focus on this one because we have some incredible action here. Magnus down to a minute. The position is very double-edged. I mean, we see opposite colored bishop position in the middle game. White has this bishop on e5, cemented on e5. Sooner or later, White will take the bishop on f3, and we will be seeing the knight versus bishop. White will try to, I mean, okay, now White can first include rook e1, or, yeah, I think rook e1 would be kind of the maybe more natural move. The difference is that if you capture on f3, then I take on f3, and if you play now rook a1 with the idea of rook e3 and kicking the queen out, maybe I can play the move knight f5. I mean, you can try to get rid of this queen, but it might cost you a lot of tempi. And in this regard, I feel like bringing them first the rook to e1, which would give the chance for black to retreat his bishop to e4. Then I would consider playing f3. You play bishop d3, I play rook f2. And yes, you have a nice bishop, but I mean, if you play just some natural moves like knight g6 and we trade this knight, and we get pressure on the g7 pawn, but this bishop on d3, actually a part of being a very nice piece, doesn't really hinder White in some slow play like queen d1, eventually expanding on the king side with g4, rook e3. I don't know exactly if you want to push. Then White will have some incredible initiative going on with this powerful bishop on e5. And those scenarios, I think, are those that Black wants to avoid at all costs.
All right, so and we see that the clock situation has caught up. Both players now, Magnus 1 minute and around 20 seconds. Meanwhile, Wesley just a minute ahead of Magnus, and still a complicated position. I think Peter is the kind of position where Wesley would maybe be happy with closing down the action. This bishop on f3. I'm expecting Wesley to actually trade off this very dangerous looking piece on f3 and not give it the chance to escape.
Well, no, I don't think that he gonna knight g6. I'm simply not worried. Yeah, no, he takes. Wow, I mean, this really surprises me because here I feel like Black is probably absolutely fine, but okay, Wesley goes queen b4, so he wants some very concrete action, invading with his queen somewhere and putting pressure. Yeah, but okay, Black goes knight f5. Very, very worried. And look at this. I mean, queen c5,
wow.
ef7. This might be checkmate. What is Wesley doing?
Okay, so what is the idea here? Because what happens after queen c6? Is there a direct finish in the game?
Well, I think knight e3 is possible. Yeah, queen takes c6, knight e3.
Oh my god, that's a stunning threat. You're threatening queen g2 mate in that position, so you have to pick up fe3. And after queen g2 is a big threat. White picks up, Black gives a check on e3. You can't go king h1, king g2 only move, and queen e2 is game over. Also, rook f2 should be mate.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is just completely, I mean, what is happening? Yeah, finally now, yeah, Wesley is correcting his mistake, trying to control the e3 square, but I mean, I feel like, yeah, Magnus going h5, just h5, and he wants to go h4, h3. I mean, I told you, just don't give up your knight, don't take this bishop on f3. I just hate this.
This is incredible, Peter. And look at that queen on c5. There's just no way that it can come back to the game. It's so far away. You want that queen on e2 to offer a queen trade here. But this entire plan of going queen b4, queen c5, trying to hunt down that pawn on c6, an absolute disaster. After taking that unstoppable, just getting to h4, you can't play h4 yourself, because after that, after h4, is Black going to sacrifice the knight? Knight h4, gh4, queen g4, you still have bishop g3. He goes h3 instead.
Yeah, he goes h3. I mean,
I think after h4, Peter, the point was that black would have this move g5. g5 would completely break white's position, and after hg5, you break in with h4.
Yeah, but I don't see what does h3 really change. It's looking awful. I mean, yeah, now he takes on c6. So basically the point is that h take g3, f take g3 is kind of okay, because then finally you kick the queen away. But knight takes g3, yeah, knight takes g3, and then queen f1. I think Wesley just completely blundered this mating idea. Incredible shot by Magnus. Yeah, takes queen f1, rook f1, rook f1, king g2, rook 8 f2, checkmate, and that's it. If white has to give up his bishop, that's already just absolutely game over. G2, and I'm expecting resignation.
And this is finesse. G2, getting that rook out of it was beautiful, but the entire way in which Magnus conducted that attack from start to finish, once Wesley's queen was misplaced on c5, based with the way black won this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, if we would not have witnessed what happened clockwise, yeah, then we might have said, like, I mean, yeah, because it was so convincing, just incredible. Wow.
And Peter, we've got a little bit of time before liftoff, because these moves happen so quickly. Let's just put his pieces into the attack, how he tripled up on the f file and eventually sacrificed to win the game. Take us through the action from here.
Yes, I mean, this was the moment I was, you know, kind of understanding what white wants from the position, that this is definitely playable. And I even had the feeling like at this moment, white is maybe still thinking to play for something, but taking on f3, I mean, once I noticed that after rook a1, black can play this move knight f5, stopping any kind of rook e3s, and even playing the move queen d1 doesn't really work because the c3 pawn is hanging in all the variations, so absolutely not easy to get rid of. Knight on h4 gives kind of nice stability for white in the position, so why not to play the move rook a1? And now already, if you want, you are starting to take on f3, and after queen f3, rook e3, you kick the queen away and you get your stability. So basically, Wesley was a little bit worried that this black bishop moves somewhere, but I mean, where exactly? I have already covered the move bishop e4. I think that after this f3, bishop d3, rook f2, white has everything under control, nothing to worry about. Don't know if I do exactly the same. I go f3, and after bishop h3, I'm gonna go rook f2. And I again don't see, I mean, these are wonderful pieces. Yeah, bishop over aggressive with g5. I don't think that it's such a good idea. You can also try to change the knight. It's also not really frightening me, but taking on f3, I mean, and then follow it up with knight, I mean, queen b4. It showed like Wesley was completely naive. He believed that nothing can happen to his king, because if black plays this knight f5, knight h4 idea, then you always take and the bishop, and if the knight has to stay on e7 protecting the pawn, then after I'm gonna follow up with rook a1. But I mean, he paid a very, very high price. Magnus immediately jumping at him, using the momentum that, in fact, it turned out that black is just winning.
And then the final blow, let's just get that position up back here. And after this is the moment that, let's just back up, Peter, where white went h3. And I was wondering that could white go h4, just trying to stop black from advancing that h pawn before you go h4 yourself, again, with devastating effects of the attack. But here, queen c6 and queen g6 could offer.
Yes, you have to lose one more tempo on king h7, and then after e4.
Wondering what direction he would have gone for had white gone for the more a natural looking move h4, just stopping black from going h4.
I mean, is something like queen g4 an option?
It's definitely
missed black's main idea. Yeah, he thought like, you know, this is a very clever way of, you know, protecting, because you just don't weaken the light squares. We also have seen that according to computer here, the position is finished. So there should be a clear win for black after h4. Maybe, hang on, can I take after h4, knight h4, and then go rook f4? I think takes, rook f4, followed by rook g4 or rook h4 seems to be winning.
Oh, this is amazing. You just block white's bishop on e5 coming into defense to the g3 square and rook f4, perfect harmony. Peter, that's a beautiful spot. You sacrifice the exchange and after bishop f4, you go rook f4. Rook e8 is only one check, so then we see that queen on c5. There's queen e7 though, maybe there. Is there queen e7?
No, but then rook g4, mate.
Rook g4, king h2,
and then queen g2.
Queen g2, mate, as well as there, not just rook h4.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Just felt like he has this super smart, this super smart computerish defense, like it seems that the house is burning, but in fact not. However, it turned out that it is burning after all, because after h4, it's not queen takes c6. The whole point is that hg3, f takes g3 is wonderful for white. You finally kick the queen out, everything is under control. The black queen moves, you take on d5, you pin the rooks, and white is probably winning the position. And a part of h takes g3, it looked like there is no follow-up from the black side, but knight takes g3 to show it one more time.
That's murder on the board. Amazing. What a brilliant finish. But Peter, once again, I think, yes, a spectacular end, but really the whole build-up of the attack, placing those heavy pieces on the f-file, all pieces. He had rook f8, rook f7, knight f5, queen f3. All the pieces on the board placed on the f-file, and then the h-pawn finally comes and delivers what needs to be done in the position. Brilliant play by the world champion. So game one of the final between Magnus and Wesley, Magnus takes it. Meanwhile, in the fight for third place, they finished 3 games, and that has ended in 3 draws. A little disappointing there. Of course, I know, Peter, a lot of our championship that's coming up in November. Now, during the tournament, we asked Magnus about his thoughts about the World Championship match and the opponent he's going to face. Take a look at this video.
Welcome to... What will be your strategy now for the next 6 months going forward towards the World Championship match?
Stopping, that's really a bad idea to stop playing in all the tournaments, because anyway you need some practice all sort of practice give chance. So yes, I guess of course it will be very big amount of information to study. Some tournaments and I guess at least one classical.
And speaking of seconds, what has been important for you choosing your team?
All my seconds are very nice people. I guess this is the main one. And a lot of fresh ideas and some fresh take on some openings. But I mean, first of all, what's important is the atmosphere and chemistry.
And speaking about Magnus, does he have any weak spots at all that you can try and take advantage of?
Well, anyway, this is the sort of question I will never answer.
Thank you. Catch you later.
Inside what is my latest course for Chessable. It is part of the by now famous lifetime repertoire series of Chessable, and I made a repertoire based on the Caro-Kann defense. So basically that means I had to do a course precisely on the Caro-Kann. Well, that's I think a very easy one for me to answer. While the Caro-Kann hasn't always been my main, I've played Sicilians, I've played French, but the Caro-Kann was always there somehow, already from an early age. So to me it made a lot of sense, especially should jump in, grab this chance and make this repertoire, because I think the Caro-Kann is one of the most reliable openings around. It's been employed by several World Championship matches. He played it against Smyslov in the World Championship match and against Tal, both with very reasonable success, I should add. So it's one of those openings that I simply I have a soft spot for. So it's a bit of a metamorphosis over the years. It used to be considered a boring opening for people who were trying to make a draw, but nowadays it's kind of different, and also we will see later than it used to. Definitely, also if you see the players playing this position, this opening, I should say, with black, you see Topalov, you see Carlsen, you see Dinglir, and that's just the modern players employing this opening regularly. They're all fighting players. They're not out to make a draw with the black pieces. So it underwent a bit of a metamorphosis, and definitely the reputation has very much changed over the past few years. and it starts right here. After e4, Caro-Kann opening. After e4, I'm now supposed to play move c6. Now white will play the next move d4. That's what I love about this move trainer. You first get to see it, you can incorporate it in your... You see the text once again, some explanation on bishop f5, why it's the most popular move, etc. I should add that at this point, because the move 3e5, the advanced variation, is, in my view, one of the most important lines against the Caro-Kann, I decided to add 2 push to c5. So both of those moves are covered in the course, because I feel that, especially this is a lifetime repertoire after all, you should be able to switch around a bit, especially in important main lines. Let's make a few more moves. e5, bishop f5, knight f3. This is the first chapter. It's based completely on the move 4, knight f3, and after e6, knight b2, c5. Well, let me just finish this particular part. dc, bishop takes c5, knight b3, bishop to b6, and then remember what you've been taught. Well, it would be a big shame if I don't, but I think I still managed this this one. And yeah, I thoroughly hope you will enjoy it. And please do let me know what you think about the course, and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Good luck going through this course. Thank you.
Air quality isn't the first thing that comes to mind when you think about chess and esports, but it affects our focus, decision-making, health, sleep, and more. What's in the air you breathe? Find out with Air Things. Breathe better, live better.
Freedom! So fresh, so new. Freedom! It's the best show in town. Best show in town. Freedom!
Welcome back. We've got liftoff of game 2 between Magnus and Wesley. Wesley with the black pieces. He lost the first game with the white pieces. He's ready for the Berlin, because in that, I think, Peter, for him, he's already taken the lead in the match and he's happy not taking any chances with Italian. We've got...
Definitely, but yeah, this is somehow very, very unfortunate. I'm not happy about this, because yeah, it already, I mean, Magnus is kind of an expert in this. Yeah, when he gets the lead, then he takes it. But for us commentators, for spectators, I mean, I'm afraid, okay, there is still a chance, you know, there is still a chance that, yeah, especially bishop f4. Bishop f4 is inviting this line, and after knight e8, for example, if white plays knight, a sharp battle which is supposed to be perfectly fine for black, but lot of excitement there.
How does that go, Peter? After knight c3, and if black gets greedy and picks up the d4 pawn, how does this progress?
This is not good. This is not good at all, especially because I mean, if we would have a great match, Wesley has to adjust. He will come very angry and he will try to do everything in the next game, but the other match has already finished today, so there is nothing to look forward to there, and Magnus is playing exactly the same line that he has already played against Rajabov yesterday. I mean, no surprises here. And now we're gonna see knight g7, bishop e5. I could be basically dictating the whole game from here on, how they will end up and finish this game, and this is not good news.
At 1. So chat, Magnus leads 1-0, 3 more games. Let's say this one ends in a draw. Right about now, we are seeing a repetition. So we've got 1.5 to half. Magnus, tell us, I've got my eye out on the chat. We see the players have left the screen for the time being. Wesley, ready for game 3. This will be his final white of the day. He needs to come up with some great prep in that. I think the Italian in round 1 did not work for him. Peter, what are you expecting from Wesley in his final white of the day?
Well, it's very, very interesting, because I don't know what to think about the first game, and maybe we can go back. We have the time. We can just go back and analyze. I mean, let's take a little closer look at this game that happened. I think we have the time, no?
Peter, we are going
Air quality isn't the first thing that comes to mind when you think about chess and out with Air Things. Breathe better, live better.
Freedom! Keep your ear to the ground. Talking about freedom! It's the best show in town. Let's show it down. Freedom!
Air quality.
Welcome back, everyone. And yes, we're sorry. We apologize for all those technical difficulties. Hopefully, it's scores that we've had so far. Now, Magnus Carlsen taking the early lead with the white pieces there at the end. And I saw somewhere somebody said a 3-1. That the next game will end in a draw, and the fourth game, Magnus will take that game one more time. I'm not sure. I think Wesley definitely coming back in game 3 with the white pieces is going to do everything he can to level the score. And Peter, what are you expecting from this next game, the final white that Wesley has? Also,
4 draws, and unfortunately with such 4 draws that there is nothing to talk about, so let's just not even mention it. Let's just forget about it. Hope that tomorrow it will be different, but I have already some kind of a suspicion, but I don't want to mention it even. For the moment, let's keep all our eyes on the first game of the Magnus we can get from this game 1 from Wesley. Wesley played the line that he has done the chessable course on, but he has been already playing this line, and then automatically, I believe you tend to believe that, okay, he already used it, he will never ever repeat it. And Magnus was just incredibly brilliant by pretending like he knew nothing, and he was coming up over the board with this new concept. Maybe it was all a part of a very, very big plan. I don't know. I don't believe it, because if it would have been a very big plan, he could have anyway played a little bit faster. There was just no reason to go Wesley into some dangerous territory. So we are seeing this is the tabia of the position. That's basically the tabia. Here it starts with the move queen c2, and what Magnus has played with bishop f5, queen b6, and I understand that you have the center, but if I'm gonna break you with f6 and I get my knight to g6, then I will get a fantastic position, and white will be risking something. But Wesley, of course, knowing all this, he had foreseen and analyzed, and basically the whole theory so far was thinking that here after c6 bishop e2, white has the threat of going knight a4, getting the bishop on b6, and if black would play the move, and now the big question is that what happened, because if, for example, Wesley in the break or his team during the game understood that what Magnus was doing is objectively not entirely correct, it's interesting but not correct, then there could be an argument that why shouldn't Wesley repeat this line from the white side? Yes, so there is really lot of pressure. If, for example, there is no team behind Wesley, if he's really working alone and tries to prepare this, then imagine in how difficult situation is he in, because he needs to adjust in few minutes of time to understand if all this rook b8 was prepared or not prepared by Magnus. Should I repeat it at the same time? I already showed my intention with this Italian. Maybe Magnus even has a different approach to this, and he has a clear equalizer against my system, which would basically put an end to set 1. There are many questions, and Wesley has to deal with all these questions. Very, very tough situation for him.
Time is definitely running out for Wesley, because especially against his e4 and going in with that Spanish, inviting the Berlin, I think that's a minuscule chance. It's just impossible to try to get anything from the world champion with the black pieces. So it really comes down to this game 3. And we did a big shout out to actually our chat and our audience who's actually with us through this whole time, when I know that there are some technical issues of lag going on. And I can assure you, chat, that's not at the end of our tech team as well. There are some server issues. Hopefully it will get resolved in time, but a big thank you and shout out to all of you for hanging out with us. And because we've got only one thing that you want to ask us, just mention it on the chat and we will get it on this stream.
Yeah, so there was this prediction, yeah, like the 3-1 result. I actually perfectly understand whoever said this 3-1 result, because it comes from the point that they believe in Magnus. They believe that with the black pieces he will be able to handle Wesley's attack. Rajabov has done yesterday, and this would actually give Magnus then the chance, just as yesterday against Rajabov, to eventually seal the match 3-1. So there is a certain logic behind. Of course, that's exactly the horror scenario for Wesley. That's what he wants to avoid at all costs. And I would say, like, yes, if he will not be able to use his white color in the next game, then I don't really believe that against Magnus he has any chances of bouncing back. Just Magnus is so used to this situation already. And I think we have been seeing this throughout, seeing that the players were totally unsure how they should treat those games. And we have seen some incredible mistakes there, and White rushing too quickly. Then White has also won quite a lot of those Armageddons. So it's not like whoever gets the black pieces in Armageddon is like a guaranteed winner, not at all. It's just that when he's in control and he gets finally the fourth game with the white pieces, then it's almost no chance for his opponents to come back.
I do see the sense in it that if the next round with white ends in a draw for Wesley, then Magnus with the white pieces might go all out, or he might just say that he needs a draw and keep things under control. But yeah, there is a big possibility. I think we've got about a minute before liftoff. Is Wesley going to take his chance one more time with the Italian? Does he start with E5?
The way things are going at the moment, I would even say, like, maybe it's time to switch to D4. I mean, there is nothing to lose. 5, knight F3, knight C6, bishop C4 on the board. So we might be seeing the same Italian line.
All right, so C3 played. This is exactly what happened in deviation at some point. What is it going to be? So this is all following what we've seen so far, Peter.
Yeah, but it also could be easily that Magnus will deviate, yeah? No, okay, Wesley deviates with H3, so that's
H3. So let's just tell everyone what happened in game one. Instead of H3, there was this move Queen C2, which was played, and after Knight E6 being played in that one, and this did not happen this time. So instead of Queen C2, Wesley and his team come up with the idea of H3, kicking out that bishop first, forcing it to H5.
Rook C1 is the first new move, because to be fair, when first time this line appeared, I think it was kind of common knowledge and everybody included H3, the move Queen B3. Here, in fact, it turned out that Black has the move Knight A5, I think. And this is very, very important, because here we see the big difference that after Queen takes D5, suddenly with the bishop on E4, but after Knight takes E4, Rook A D8, you actually trap White's queen in the center of the board. They were doing immediately without the inclusion H3, bishop F5. So that's how all this line developed, because here line kind of got abandoned and it didn't really get any attention. And suddenly Wesley comes up and, okay, I don't know, first of all, the move cannot be objectively really good, because if it would be so good, then Wesley would have already used it in his very first game. But maybe my situation will be desperate, then exactly with this move I'm planning to disbalance Magnus, just as Rajabov has done in that Ragozin, where he came up with this H4, H5, Rook H4 line, which objectively also doesn't promise White anything. In fact, maybe even White is risking something if Black knows. But if Black does not know...
He is still thinking about that game one. We saw him just slightly unhappy with the way things are right now, shaking his head. So far, Rook C1 played. I think in game one, the position he got out of the opening was part of his big mess up on his side, allowing Magnus that attack and losing that game one. Definitely the worst kind of start that Wesley could have expected, especially using his key preparation. Move intentionally in a slow position, the best way to counter preparation. And the point, I think, with the slow position is that very precise, but in a more strategic position, you can kind of play something that's not part of your prep, that's not the computer's top line, because very often that would help in getting you.
Then there is quite some scope for human creativity, and in a classical game, usually, you know, you should, even in a strategical battle, try to find the absolutely best moves. But in a rapid play or blitz play, certainly playing the moves that are most unpleasant for the opponent are really very, very useful and very, very unpleasant for the opponent. We have also pointed out that, hang on, if white would have been super precise, he could have gotten the advantage. But I mean, in the heat of the battle with little time on the clock, the players are also using their emotions. Yeah, it's not like just calculating, because there are lines, there are positions. For example, this position now, how can you really calculate or try to understand exactly what is happening? Finally, you have to rely on your after rook a1 to c1. Yeah, why is this move so important? Why didn't white, for example, castle? Why all this had to happen? Yeah, there are many questions here. But rook c1 is like a move that it feels like, you know, it's logical and useful because it stops black's bishop c4 winning the queen. So the move rook c1 actually has a deep purpose and ask black that, hang on. So do you want to stop this plan of knight takes d5? Do you want to trade on c3? I'm giving you the option because I cannot take with the rook. Then it would run into bishop a5 winning the exchange. But if you are taking on c3, then white can actually take b takes c3, reinforce useful against the bishop on b6. So psychologically, a very clever move there by Wesley. I don't know if objectively it's any good, but definitely it's probably the move that you need for such a game.
Very interesting what you point out, that rook 5 suddenly becomes a reality, although even attacking the e5 pawn, the pressure is on, and I think far from over in the calculation. But for making sure the knight on c3 is tied down, can't go to d5. So the main idea in these structures for black is always to get f6 one way or the other. And I have a feeling that now is the right time for white to go short castle, once again renew the idea of taking on d5. And after short castle, I am expecting a trade on c3, not allowing the white rook to have an open c line, and then eventually f6.
Yes, castle played f6. I mean, it all depends on this f, but I don't know exactly. I mean, now f6 doesn't seem to be so good. Yeah, because this is another very important strategical moment from white's play. Yeah, like for example, after g4, maybe first reaction is like, oh my God, what is g4? Why is white weakening his king? It's very important to get rid of this against my king, but I just go knight e5. And next I'm going to go f3, kicking this knight away. And we again see one of those positions that white actually wants to get in this structure, like kicking the knight away. It might be unpleasant. So yeah, and Magnus is not going f6. He goes knight a5.
He goes knight a5, so he also eyes the c4 square and not with f6, but sometimes you can also go c6 or c5, breaking in the center after a certain amount of preparation as well. And as you're pointing out, Peter, c6, b5, really taking control of that c4 square file has been taken away from the rook. I see our evaluation bar seems to say that Wesley is doing great in this position. So what does white want here? Does he want to move the queen away, try and get that knight up?
The idea is very clear what white wants to do. Yeah, that somehow unpin himself from this very uncomfortable pin and eventually push these pawns, kick this knight away. But the big question is, how do you do that? And what do you consider worth it? That do you consider, like in this moment, also to play g4? And then after, like bishop g6, 5, and so on. So maybe I can make some move, but if I move the knight back, then already black might have the time to go f6 because the knight is far away from the e5 square. So playing g4 here immediately isn't so obvious that this is so good. Another move would be also, black wants to play c6, but the answer is no. But do I want to move the queen to c2? Again, I don't know exactly. So there are a lot of look like, and the engine bar indicates that, yeah, white is having a lot of fun in this position. Everything is under control. Black has a very clear plan. Black wants to set up the blockade with c6, b5, knight c4, rely on this pin, and be ready for every action that white is trying to use on the king side. So a super exciting position. I mean, we got a real game. That's the very good news for us.
I think Wesley needs to use this opportunity that you're talking about. He needs to go G with F6 or go for this knight C4 idea. I am predicting G4 from Wesley. It's time for him to, and he goes for it, Peter. He'll white for Wesley. The fourth game is after that, so we fix the scores under the players. Now Bishop G6 played.
First the move King G2. It's not entirely clear to me, because if you play knight E1, one of the moves that bothered me a bit was F6. Because now the desired move like F3 maybe can be answered by knight G6, but no, back why I was also not such a huge fan of King G2, that I wasn't really sure that on long terms my king is really so much better on G2 than on G1, and after all it costs a tempo. So knight E1 on the board, and I feel like, you know, okay, black has to somehow justify, I mean, he has to, then white will be super happy getting that extra tempo with knight G2, kicking the queen back, plus then already F3 might trap the knight on E4. So queen H4 looks like a nice attacking move, but in fact might lose a lot of tempos for black.
On the black knight, and after knight G5, let's just see that line one time, Peter. F6, F3, knight G5, the only square for the knight H3. There's this knight on H3 is trapped. You can go king G2 or king H2 and pick up that knight. A healthy position. It looks scary, but the king on H3 absolutely safe. No queen H4 coming in. And instead, if you go knight E6, there's F5. If you go knight F7, there's also F5. So F6, F3 is game over for black. Queen H4.
You can still jump back. I'm not saying that I'm happy from the black side, definitely not. But I mean, at least it isn't over. But clearly Magnus thinks that his position is probably indicating he kind of believed in this concept. But now he has to justify it for the moment. Of course, if white is coming quickly with this F3 idea, then it might be very, very unpleasant for black, because
6 in his game one to push that bishop back down on the board. It's another move that, at least for the time being, stops F3. After C6, where would you expect the white bishop to retreat to?
Well, I don't know exactly, but okay, there are some arguments for both moves. Okay, let's go step by step. Yeah, so
at least
there's me a big time with bishop E2, but if I go bishop D3, then after F3, whenever you move your knight, you are also ready to trade the bishops. Yeah, it's
on the B5 square.
Yeah, I'm also expecting C6. The only problem for Magnus may be that he feels like the bishop on B5 is anyway a little bit unfortunate, and he goes for F6. Yeah, he doesn't want to touch the
F3 is screaming to be played. Peter, let's take a look at that, because if white trades on F6, that solves all of black's problem. If white goes F4, black's F6 is super successful. I'm expecting Wesley, good or bad, to play the move F3 here.
Yeah, F3 is kind of expected. Now I'm also thinking that can actually black be super clever and then try to play C6 here. Yeah, F3 on the board.
On the board, Wesley bites the bullet. He says he's ready for it, ready for all the action, because that's what he needs with the white pieces right now.
Both is a messy position. It's a type of position where Magnus is disbalanced. It's not like he can rely on any of his routines or whatever. I mean, it's a very, very concrete, direct position. Lot of pressure on Magnus now.
Peter, let's take a look at some lines, because this is such a critical moment, and Magnus down to 6 minutes on his clock. He can't take too long, because the action, regardless, white is doing well here. C6 first, big question, where does the bishop go to? I don't want to come back to E2 because of knight G3. Let's take a look at bishop D3 and what happens. What's the follow-up after bishop D3?
Yeah, and Magnus has actually opted for C6. I think it was kind of the justification that if you already played for this F6 line, then he wants to follow it up with C6. It spices that black will be able to trade down the light square bishops immediately.
Okay, so knight light squared bishop, where is this knight on G3 escaping to? And the answer to that is nowhere. So you don't want to take chances with that. Knight G5 played, and now...
Yes, but those type of positions are super tricky, because actually black solves lot of problems.
He hinders white. Peter, because I don't think we get the chance to actually look at such a pawn structure where there are 4 pawns on the same line, on the G line, 3 black pawns, a triple decker here. But like you were mentioning, that black has his own trumps after ruining his pawn structure.
Exactly. The point is that also white's knight will lack any good square. It's just impossible. There are also big... taking a closer look, it doesn't look appealing at all for white. The big question is like, which piece do you want to trade? Yeah, which piece do you want to trade? When do you want to go f4? Because after all, white could even now maybe go for f4 just as before, but of course the situation has changed. Now, for example, after f4, and we are seeing this pawn structure.
Wow, amazing. Peter, absolutely what you were pointing out in the other line, huge difference from what we saw after the bishop trade. In that position, white would have had f5 as it. Then here, f5, there's no bishop on g6, so white doesn't really have that kind of time. So instead, Wesley gives Magnus the worst pawn structure that we've seen in the FTX Crypto Cup so far.
Yeah, but it's also very, very interesting to understand what Wesley's thinking. Yeah, because knight c4. Wow, Magnus felt that, you know, going knight c4 immediately, giving the g6 pawn. Magnus felt that he doesn't have the right to lose tempo for this move. Interesting. I mean, I'm still not exactly understanding why. I still don't entirely understand why this is so critical, but in time to break with f4, and one thing you don't want to do is let white's knight be activated. Yeah, for example, g5, maybe even something like knight g6 on g6. There are even lines like you go queen e6, I might follow it up with rook f5. You cannot take on g6 because of rook f8 check. And then I'm starting to take on g5, go rook h5 and invade and mate. So Magnus gives up the pawn, but this is then a full pawn. So it's not about we are not talking.
Still maintains the pressure. I really like after queen g6, queen e7, his move rook f2. The idea is simple. You want to free up your knight on e1. You want to start jumping around with it. Either earlier, because black had this idea of knight d2, which would hit the rook on f1 and the pawn on f3. So first, a prophylactic move, preparing to get ready to jump with the knight and bring it into the game.
Yeah, and now there is nothing else to do for Magnus. Yeah, like, okay, I lost the pawn, now I want to try to pretend that things are... And I have to say that whenever, you know, somebody makes a draw like Magnus has done in the second game, I'm very, very happy that in the next game, the white player gets a chance. Yeah, because this is exactly the way how we want to discourage those decisions that whenever black feels like, I mean, whenever the player who won with the black pieces that says like, okay, now I want what we should be very, very happy about, that we got a very, very exciting match again.
And the ball is in Wesley's court right now. He's got a dream. He wants to get his rook on the c file, try and trade it off and create some play along the c line. But meanwhile, this gives Wesley the time to jump with the knight. We've been talking about it. Knight g2 comes to mind, trying to get that f4 in. I'm actually expecting Wesley to play either knight g2 or knight d3. Knight g2 just feels a little safer because the queen on g6 can always bounce back if it needs to. Knight g2 threatening f4, and if black takes the pawn on d4, you take it back, and after rook c8, you simply step away with the rook and go f4.
I mean, big trap and the big
trap after
f4.
Let's show that, Peter. After f4, knight e5 that you're pointing out.
Yes, exactly. I mean, knight takes e5, hitting the queen and hitting the rook at the same time. So those are the scenarios. One might run into some queen b4 issue. Yeah, Magnus jumping immediately. Yeah, rook, knight g2, rook a8, and rook cf1. I actually love this move a lot. I really love this move because white is getting ready to break with f4, and then the rook, yeah, rook c6 had to be played. The queen had to be kicked away. But this is bad news for Magnus. I mean, it's not only that it looks bad, it might be also that practically it's just so easy for Wesley. He has a clear plan, and it's the right way to go with f4. Rook a6, very clever by Magnus. He doesn't want to give breath. Runs into rook a3. It might be that it's still okay for white, but definitely you need to calculate a lot because black will be hitting the pawn on h3, and unless you see exactly that by force you are doing very well, you don't want to give such chance.
Peter, I just mentioned in chat that I'm actually expecting Wesley to win this one. He's got this extra pawn bit, and look at that eval bar. It does seem to say that White has got this huge advantage. And the only thing that in that rare position of game 4, how White set it up and in the end finished it off the moment he opened the F file. And this is the same pattern that we are seeing here from Wesley's side.
One here, so that after rook a3 you will be ready to play rook b3. And it's again a very, very typical natural way of, you know, rerouting your rook. And then you can ask me, why was I so euphoric about rook c1 to f1 before? But a lot of things has changed, yeah, because after rook like took on d4, I know that my opponent already took. I'm coming back with the queen. Now black is leaving the c file. He's going rook a6. And then the move like rook b1, just preventing all these ideas on the queen side, make a lot of sense. But definitely one of the things for this queen.
And Peter, we are being a lot of chat mentioning that f4 seems to be the move that the engine is recommending. So maybe let's take a look at that.
Yeah, you go back to g6. And now the point is that after the move rook takes h3, probably you can just take on g5. F6 might be winning there, but okay. Anyway, f4 on the board, we might be seeing all these lines. f4, rook a3, queen g6, blitzed out.
Wow, chat. So f4 played and rook a3, queen g6. Peter, rook h3, you definitely don't want that. Even if f6 is a possibility, I think this line should not work for White. So after rook h3,
White is not winning here, but the point is that after f5, I'm also not sure if, but okay, otherwise f5 anyway has this terrible f6 threat. Yeah, Magnus going for rook takes h3, so we might be seeing f5 or f takes g5, one of these two moves.
In the beginning, I just thought simply take on g5 and you've got control of the f file. You've got rook f2, e6 maybe coming in with ideas of rook f7. Knight might be difficult to deal with it. Knight e3 you're mentioning at the moment. And does this give White, does this mean that White would be forced g5?
Then queen g5, yeah, queen d3, queen g5, and okay, maybe you have rook e2. I don't know, but it already looks strange. Wesley going for f5. I mean, it's a very principled move. I mean, humanly, this is very nice because you have this wonderful pawn structure and you don't structure with f6, making sure that you use your two rooks on the f file with incredible force. And let's not forget that in the very first game when Magnus won with the black pieces, he won thanks to these two rooks now as well to checkmate black.
And chat informing us, Peter, that f5 is the way to go. Now, rook h6 was the scary thing the first moment you look at it, but I think this, you just go slightly deeper in that position. And actually after rook h6, f6, it's black who's in big trouble. Because take a look at this. If black picks up the queen on g6, white takes fe7, and you can't really stop the e7 pawn from promoting. Take white's queen on g6. On the other hand, if after f6 you simply move your queen away, let's say to d7 or to c7, amongst other options, queen g5 looks like the simplest way to continue in that position. So rook h6 is not possible after f5.
Actually, if white gets f6 in, it's just winning. So I'm wondering, can black take on e5, queen e5 with some counterplay?
But queen e6, you just trade the queens immediately, no?
Yes, yeah, no, of course.
Maybe you have a lot of pawns.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, no, if by Magnus then f6, I mean, why isn't white just crushing through? It looks like white is crushing.
Wow. Okay, so f6, ef6. So this
yeah, he just blundered it completely. He just blundered it.
It was lost.
Yeah,
but I think the position.
He blundered it. It was clear on his face that he just.
But also the way he did it, it reminds me exactly of how Magnus won game 1 in crushing style with crushing. And after f takes g7, the rook on f8 is hanging, and this is why Magnus resigned. Wesley bouncing back into the match.
Yeah, absolutely, and not just bouncing, as you mentioned, that it's very, very similar. Yeah, like almost like they are showing mirror to each other. Yeah, you crush me on the f file, queen g7 check, wonderful finish.
Amazing. Actually, in that game, it was Magnus who finish the game off on the F-file. And in this game, it's Wesley who does exactly the same. Peter, let's rook F2, got that knight to G2, was not afraid of rook A6, rook A3. I think some brilliant play there by Wesley with strong foundation, a tactical blow, finishing the game off. Let's just do a move by move from starting from here.
Yeah, I think that here it was very, very interesting because I was thinking about the position strategically and it didn't cripple my opponent's pawns. And it's wonderful, but you give some time for black and black will be super happy. It's all about move per move, and Wesley has spotted it that with queen d3 he gets a very big tempo, he hits this pawn on g6, and I think the whole point is that, yeah, once you discover that after queen e8 you have this simple but very, very effective plan of going knight g2, right? Thanks to this, it already looks terrible for black. Yeah, I was discussing this during the... Once you spot that you can play the move rook f5 with the set of rook takes g5 and queen g6 runs into rook f8 check, it all makes sense. Yeah, so I don't know exactly if this was the perfect line or not. It was definitely a model line to illustrate what are the dangers, and Magnus said, the point is that it's this plan that Wesley followed with rook f2 and knight g2 breaks with knight g2, rook cf1 and breaks with f4, then black's king will be in a terrible trouble. And we also see that the knight on c4 is not able to fight back in the position, but it never worked because Wesley was just too precise.
Just absolute precise play. And despite us always thinking that Wesley is this strong, he shows exactly what he's capable of, bouncing right back into the match, leveling the score before going into the final game where he will be playing with the black pieces. And chat, I am keeping an eye out on, we've tried everything that we can for this stream, but right now certain internet issues not in our hands. So apologies for that. And meanwhile, let's just get our scorecard up. Let's just get our scorecard up that we've had so far. So Magnus taking game one, second game ended in a draw, and third, Wesley taking a Berlin. Or will Magnus this time try and play something different and make the most of the white pieces?
Yeah, or basically fixing his advantage, his lead. But now that he lost game three, I just cannot imagine him not trying very hard with the white. Whenever, I see Magnus playing a brilliant game from the black pieces and winning a game and then slows down, I think it encourages his opponents, yeah, because we all know that when Magnus starts crushing, then everybody starts to be afraid of him, yeah. But if you are playing against careful and then suddenly Magnus shows no interest at all to pose you any problems, that's when I would think like, the player who lost the first game with the white pieces would get some energy and strengths out of it. Aha, hang on. So Magnus is not entirely sure about his strengths. He thinks like, now just saving his job with that h4, h5, rook h4 in the Ragozin. Wesley shows h3, rook c1, changing this whole position, giving new dynamics, asking new questions. And Magnus was not familiar. Finally, he didn't react well. I mean, especially how the game went and how the game proved. Magnus definitely made immediately an error after rook c1, so it was a wonderful preparation that worked to perfection for Wesley.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming up with that idea in limited amount of time between game one and game three. Could be prepped from before, of course, but in game one, it was interesting to see how his main idea of queen c2, queen b3 from his course didn't work out. And then he comes out with the big guns in his final white and goes for this h3, rook c1 plan, which definitely got Magnus a little off guard. We saw him go into a bit of a think and not being able to handle the opening part correctly. He did land up in trouble. Those triple pawns, Peter, let's just have that structure up on our board because we really don't get to see this kind of a position. Chat, take a look at this. 3 pawns on the G file, one a white pawn blocking it, and immediately Wesley taking advantage of that, attacking that pawn on G6, and very key moment because it looks like black can just defend it with a move like queen E8. But Peter, as you mentioned, then the knight finds its way to F4, and that would be very difficult to handle for black. I think Wesley out and out opening preparation, middle game, and the final blow on G7, brilliant play.
Yeah, this is exactly the strengths that we have witnessed from Wesley, that whenever he gets a good position, I think then he is just unstoppable. Yeah, he never gets kind of nervous when he gets a chance. Yeah, he always uses it to perfection. And yeah, here basically, I think the reason why Magnus simply from with his nice positional understanding, it signaled him that it's no problem, no biggie that I have the triple pawns. Yeah, that's why from the distance he was not worried about it. But that's why it's so easy to miss actually, that it's not the problem that you have the triple pawns, it's the problem that white will break those triple pawns and make advantage according to his liking. Yeah, and once his knight gets to f4, targets the g6 pawn, then it all falls apart. So Magnus, I think, took the right practical decision, not bothering with that pawn, sacrificing it immediately, relying on his counterplay with c5, rook c8, rook c6. But it just shows, like, you know, this construction. It reminds me very much of the Botvinnik type of construction in the d4 systems. Yeah, when in Nimzo you get this structure with white playing c takes d5, e d5, a3, bishop takes c3, b takes c3, and you get bishop d3, knight e2, and slowly with f3, e4 you are coming with the white pieces. And whenever you reach that setup, actually black has nothing to do against it. Yeah, it's just unstoppable. It's coming to you. And here we witness something very, very similar, that black is trying his counterplay, but just white is systematically getting ready, doesn't care what black is doing. Magnus tried, I think, the best, rook c6, queen d3, rook a6, also creating this very, very unpleasant set of rook a3, which could have eventually forced some players switching to rook b1, trying to meet this with rook b3, but then giving up the momentum. Wesley, we have seen this very, very often. It's very characteristic for him that when he feels that it's the momentum, he never gets scared. He takes the time, calculates the forced lines, and he spotted this wonderful idea after queen g6, rook takes h3, that he can play f5, and there are no ghosts. Rook h6 does not trap white's queen because there is this wonderful f6 move, and after that black's position collapses.
Just lovely, just spectacular play. And absolutely, Peter, mere mortals like us would have gotten very afraid of rook a6, rook a3, and gone for some other plan of trying to defend it, but not Wesley, not with his calculation ability. He goes for the direct line. And I have to say, the two decisive games that we've had so far in this set one, both absolute attacking masterpieces. Such a masterclass by both Magnus in game one and then Wesley in game three, how to build an attack and how to deliver the killer blow. Meanwhile, in chat, William asking, when are the Yan and Rajabov tiebreakers? So the format is that the players play 2 sets and they have tied their first set, and only if it's a tie in the second set tomorrow will we have the playoffs with the 2 blitz game. And if that's a tie as well, then it moves on to the Armageddon. Vidisha asking, what is the score now between Wesley and Magnus? It is level. With that win, Wesley so has caught up with Magnus Carlsen in this set one going into the final game. I'm expecting neither players to take too much risk here, Peter. What's your call on the action, and what is your prediction of the first move that Magnus is going to go for in the final game?
Well, I'm actually expecting a very serious fight, because simply if now that Wesley bounces back, Magnus would suddenly just play a very, very soft game from the white side. It would be a very bad message. I mean, it would definitely be a very bad message. It's a match. Yeah, there is a lot of psychology involved. Yeah, I simply cannot believe that Magnus would show some sign of weakness to his opponent. Yeah, because whenever he's up on the scoreboard and making those draws with white, actually puts pressure on his opponent. But if now Wesley leveled the score and Magnus would basically not pose him any problem and just give Wesley the chance of making an easy draw, then can you imagine with what kind of confidence Wesley would come back tomorrow? I mean, he would feel like, oh, hang on. I mean, Magnus is scared about it. I mean, he's worried about me. He's afraid. That would be a bad message. And I know Magnus, you know, I mean, he knows how strong he is. He respects himself very, very much. And in this regard, I feel like it's his duty not to win this last game, but to show who is the boss in the match. Yeah, that to put the pressure and force Wesley to play brilliantly, defend brilliantly, and if he makes the draw, let it be. But not from Magnus's side, like he's not trying, because that would be a very bad message.
Well, chat is predicting a draw in the next one. But Peter, I agree with you on that. That even if it's a draw, Magnus wants it on his own terms. He wants to make sure that he creates a position and creates a game where Wesley has to fight for that half a point and not just go for these quick Berlin positions or these forcing lines, the anti-Berlin lines where we see these quick draws. That is not Magnus's style. So I think even if it's going to be a draw, we can expect a big fight. Like you're saying, it is probably going to happen in Magnus's terms.
Yeah, in this regard, I feel like maybe playing first move d4. Yeah, because if Wesley would play this opening that he has been using, and Magnus himself yesterday tried this, yeah, this famous endgame, which I didn't know that it existed till Wesley played it in the Skilling Open, and then afterwards, you know, when we had Wesley and we congratulated him in the studio, asked me, you know, with big respect, like, what is my opinion? And I was just not able to answer at all because I just didn't know that this line exists the way how he played it, because queen takes d4, e d5, e4, of course, we knew the existence, but this d takes e4, queen takes d8, king d8, knight g5, bishop e6, it was just an absolutely no go before. You look at it and you understand that, okay, it definitely should be better for white. But Wesley had these feelings. Maybe he was looking from the white side, finding some advantage, and he realized that it's not so easy, and then he got attracted and went deeper. There are many times this kind of scenarios in modern chess that's how you get attracted to some line. And ever since, yeah, the line is not very attractive, but was holding. But when we look at from Magnus's side, then it could be also some kind of a try. Now that he looked it from the black side, and he knows that, yes, I was trying to play it, but I was suffering against Rajabov yesterday. So why not to try to squeeze something out in this position from white side if you don't want to take too much risk, but at the same time you still want to put pressure on your opponent.
So Peter, are you predicting a 1d4 from Magnus?
I'm not daring to predict, but I was kind of, you know, speculating about this circumstance, like Chet is saying that, yeah, Magnus probably wants to have it safe, but I'm still speculating that, yes, maybe safe, but with some pressure. And this endgame could be actually one of those territories that, okay, white can try to play simply without any risk, but maybe Magnus has too much respect for Wesley's abilities playing this position, so he just says, no, I don't want to play a position like this. I was just giving it as an example that it could be a possibility.
And do we have liftoff? No, we don't.
No, it was just Peter, my d4 move that tricked you.
So what you're predicting is that you think Magnus might go d4, but he can also go e4.
Yes, he can. I mean, he can go d4, he can play e4, he can even maybe have the feeling like, you know, I just want to play chess.
1b4, maybe 1b4, and he goes for e4. He goes for e4.
Yeah, but then let's see. I mean, now I want to see, I want to learn something.
Bishop c4, Italian Peter. Oh no, he goes for the Spanish.
He goes for the Spanish, and what exactly? I mean, okay, I want to see some big battle here. Very, very, very curious that, I mean, Magnus going for the same line. What does it show? That
it shows
this
that
completely surprises me and shocks me, to be honest.
Maybe he's done for the day, and I don't see Wesley having any complaints about that. I think Wesley is more than happy to wrap up set one like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, okay, he feels like a winner. Yeah, I mean, bouncing back from a hopeless situation. He won a must-win game against Magnus, and then Magnus even showing some nerves. Not being ready to fight with the white pieces. I mean, this is good news for Wesley, but we should also not forget that actually Magnus will start tomorrow with the white pieces, and believe me that tomorrow with the white pieces in the first game he will be super aggressive. So don't be fooled by this that we are seeing exactly the same game like it happened in game 2, and
wow.
And kudos to Chet. I mean, I feel like, you know, why am I here if Chet knows better what to expect?
Peter, Chad always knows. They predicted a draw, and they said it would be a shout out to Kellen actually, who predicted that it's going to be a draw in the Berlin. So that was some spot on prediction by Chat there. And with that repetition, a repetition of moves, a repetition of exactly what we saw in game 2, Magnus Carlsen and Wesley So finish. They finish their set 1 At a level score, at a tie, with 2 decisive games, Magnus drew first blood, Wesley bouncing back in game 3. And Peter, for me, what was most fascinating about this match was that how similar the 2 games were. Just the players changed, but the way they conducted the attack, how it finished on the king's side, how the F-file played a role, it was uncanny resemblance in both these games.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really like a mirror. Yeah, everything, the 2 wins from the white and from the black side were very similar. Then the 2 games when Wesley had the black pieces were exactly the same. I mean, okay, there is nothing to talk about those games, but yeah, the first and the third game compensated for a lot. Yeah, those attacks were just brilliant.
I just remembered in the first game, knight g3 was the killer blow, and in the second one, in the one Wesley won, queen g7, and we've got Magnus with us in Oslo, so let's go to Oslo.
What do you mean by felt like shit? Your form?
Yeah, I was just I don't feel good today. Hopefully I'll feel better tomorrow.
All right, so banking everything on tomorrow, then...
No, it's not about banking everything on tomorrow. It's just that I think if you don't feel well, you should listen to your body.
Absolutely.
Magnus, if you're still not feeling great tomorrow, will you continue with the same strategy? Will you try to force yourself out of this funk somehow?
Yeah, we'll see tomorrow. Hopefully I'll be better.
But if I can ask you just one question then about the game that you won, because that was quite spectacular. How did you feel about that?
No, I mean, I think I reacted kind of poorly to his idea in the opening, and then I don't know, he went wrong at some point, and I got a bit lucky. So I'm overall not dissatisfied with the overall result. Obviously, it's a pity to play as poorly as I did in the third game, but yeah, it happens. So overall, I should be relatively satisfied with the draw.
All right, and well, with not feeling well today, and also with the history against Wesley in the finals, how do you sort of see your chances of now winning the FTX Crypto Cup?
No, it depends on tomorrow. If I feel okay tomorrow, I have every chance of winning.
All right. Well, Magnus, definitely we wish you some good rest and hope you're feeling better tomorrow. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I guess that answers our questions on why this happened.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it happens. You don't feel very well and sometimes you have to bail out. What's surprising, I mean, we didn't expect it at all. But okay, Magnus just gave us the very honest reason. Yeah, and we hope that he feels better tomorrow.
Oh, definitely. Hopefully some sickness won't destroy this final. And we're
Peter, Magnus mentioning there that he was not, and we've got no time as Wesley's in the studio now, so let's hear it from him.
Interview. Well, I hope Magnus will feel better on Tuesday.
Yeah. But how do you feel about your own play? I mean, definitely that third game making that huge comeback.
Yeah, actually... Yeah, I mean, the first game was very unfortunate, of course. But, yeah, I mean, the first game, I think I surprised him in the opening, but then I moved the wrong knight to the corner first. Like, I should play knight h4 first before knight a4, I think. But then somehow I played knight a4 first and then knight h4, and then he found f6, which is really good. And around move 26, I think I should just try to play for a draw by playing bishop d6 and trading off the knights. But I was feeling a bit ambitious, and I just totally underestimated his attack, and I forgot that he can mate me on the last 2 files with this knight takes g3. Like, I totally missed that a few moves ago.
So you mentioned...
Yeah, it was a blunder.
So you mentioned, Wesley, you think this was the moment you made a mistake before Magnus got the attack?
Yeah, on move 26, I mean, I think only black could be slightly better looking at it now. But I was feeling ambitious during the game. So I should play bishop d6. Like queen b4 and queen c5 was just a very mistaken plan.
All right. Well, Wesley, you did choose this opening again, right? In game 3. So what was that about? Is this an opening that you're feeling that very confident about and that you have some great ideas in that we obviously did see?
Yeah, the problem is that I knew coming in from the last 2 matches with Magnus that he will play this e5 knight c6 and very solid. Like he'll play the same solid stuff against any opening. Like against d4, he probably has some queen's gambit. And I figured it's better to have bad preparation than no preparation at all. But I mean, objectively, the lines I played with white today is harmless. Black has multiple ways of equalizing. But my preparation before the game, I was thinking whether I should play another opening. But then Magnus' repertoire is very broad with black against other moves. So I figured little preparation is better than no preparation. Yeah, I mean, I'm very glad to win the 3rd game. He blundered with knight a5, after which there was just no way out. But yeah, it's confusing that he doesn't want to fight with the white pieces, but of course I'll take it. But I mean, he very nearly won today's match, of course. All he needed to do was hold game 3.
So Wesley, yet again, you managed to win on demand. So tell us, what is your secret? Is it those apples?
Ooh, yes.
And good. Well, just taking the chances my opponents give me. Actually, I heard Magnus' interview where he said he doesn't feel well. I'm actually also not sleeping well. Like this tournament has a lot of stake, and winning it guarantees a spot in the final. So I'm actually very nervous also the last few nights. So I think last night I only slept 6 hours. But yeah, I'll tell you a story. So we're leaving for Romania, Grandchester, on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So my mother is packing already, my sister. So we have all our suitcases up here, and the cats see the suitcase. And whenever they see the suitcase, yeah, they know that we're about to leave, and they don't ever want us to leave.
Oh.
So they start yowling and meowing all night long. It's very hard to sleep.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine that's very hard, Wesley.
And yeah, what?
Yeah, I mean, I feel sharp today, but I'm just not getting enough sleep. But hopefully tonight I can sleep much better.
And Wesley, now that it is just a one-day shootout for first place, what will your strategy be tomorrow if we leave opening preparation aside? Do you have a specific way that you'll approach it?
Strategy tomorrow? Well, just try to avoid blunders like I did on game 1. Try to avoid blunders. That's the most important thing. And try to do well in the opening. But we'll see what happens. I think right now I'm pretty happy if we go into a tiebreak with 2-2. I mean, it seems like Nepo and Tamor are also heading that way. So I think if we get to this, I'll be pretty happy because it'll be anybody's game. But yeah, I'm just hoping to play well and avoid blunders. I mean, hopefully Magnus is not on his best tomorrow. But, I mean, I hope he feels better on Tuesday, but not tomorrow.
You're allowed to feel that way, definitely, of course.
Yeah, I mean, game 1 today, he played magnificently. He played like a machine. But of course, I'm helped by the fact that he took quick draws with white.
All right. Well, Wesley, good luck on the final day tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you. I'll give my best. Hopefully, put up a entertaining fight.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks. Hopefully. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Wow, so Peter, Magnus not feeling up to mark, not in his best shape, not feeling well. And Wesley also struggling with sleep and all the situation with him moving out with the packing of bags and taking care of that. But despite that, two really great games. Magnus was not very happy with the way things went today. Wesley happy with the way especially things went in game 3. Now he mentioned a key point for that game 1, that he messed up the knight move order, that instead of knight a4, the correct way to play was to get the other knight on the rim first, to go for knight h4. Can you just explain that to us a little bit? Because very subtle there, the difference.
Yeah, actually, when I first showed this knight h4 move, I think it was also that I showed knight h4 immediately, because somehow I felt like, you know, it's more natural. I did not really understood the differences or whatever, but somehow my hand automatically, once I spotted knight h4, wanted to go knight h4 immediately. And the difference is that in the game after...
If we can bring the board up, Peter. Yeah, let's go.
Yes. So basically, I mean, this was the position when Magnus played Rook b8, and suddenly I immediately noticed that, there is this knight h4 move, and my hand wanted to make this move automatically, the move knight h4, without really understanding what is the real point behind, but just looked like, you know, immediately disbalancing this bishop. And the big difference is that now black is not able to play f6 because the knight on c3 is still eyeing the e4 knight. Yeah, so black faces this problem of knight f5, knight f5, knight takes e4, winning the piece. And the whole point is that by starting like this, that Magnus would have been forced to I don't know, move the bishop back to e6, retreat. And I don't know exactly how white gets advantage, but certainly then white has everything under his control, and probably he's the one fighting for advantage. But after knight a4, suddenly, yeah, and that was the moment. You remember that after bishop c7, knight h4, f6, once we discovered that after any move like f3, black has this move b5, I already did not understand what white should be doing. And when Wesley went for bishop f3, it certainly looked to me like, no, this cannot be the move. It cannot be right. But maybe the problem was that already there was no real good move for him. He lost the momentum, he got nervous, and he completely lost the control of the game. And then we have seen what happened later.
Amazing, the kind of subtleties and how important it is to be precise. Just one move difference, that allowing f6 and going with the other knight to h4, the kind of difference it would have made in the position. And this is high-class chess. This is what chess is about. These precise moments. After knight a4, black is doing great. After knight h4, white is doing absolutely fine. And with that, after that, Magnus, I think, played flawlessly until game 3, when it was Wesley's turn to show us some flawless chess. Peter, we had two not so amazing draws, but in the other match, we had all 4 draws, which kind of left little to talk about. And I'm just wondering if that match is actually just going to be the prediction of what Jan made about his match against Wesley. 8 draws and then 2 blitz games.
Yeah, this is a good point. Yeah, that exactly. That already Jan mentioned, these 8 quick draws. I mean, what kind of signal I got from the player today is like, yeah, they feel like, you know, they are very disappointed not reaching the final, and maybe also very exhausted. I mean, people should simply really not forget that what the players are going through. Yeah, these incredible preliminaries with 5 games a day for 3 days, non-stop action, 15 games, all this nerve-wracking moment. Do you qualify? Are you out of the tournament? And we have been seeing both Jan Nepomniachtchi and Magnus Carlsen till the very last second, not clear if they will succeed or not qualifying. After that, we had all these incredible quarterfinal battles between Jan Nepomniachtchi and Fabiano Caruana, one of those incredible epic matches. And then the big disappointment by losing the semifinals, because usually so far the whole system is that when you fail, you are knocked out, you finish your tournament, you go home and you start thinking about next tournament, you have next aims. But here, after losing the semifinal and being very disappointed and tired, suddenly you are faced with the choice like, okay, and I have to fight again. I'm already completely exhausted. This 3rd place, it's already not that important. I got a lot of tour points. I mean, there are many arguments, you know, why the players feel like this is already not that important. Of course, still, for me personally, it's kind of disappointing, because I know that both Temur and Jan are brilliant players. So if they would be, you know, like giving their all for this match, we would be seeing fantastic spectacle. Yeah, that's kind of the reason why I'm not happy about it. But okay, the players took this approach. I'm still hoping for some miracle for tomorrow, but if it's gonna be blitz, we're gonna be entertained in the blitz, because finally there will be a decision and there will be blood also in this match.
Yeah, there's no running away. You can hide, but you can't run from the decisive result. Peter, you're not alone in your disappointment of watching these two greats fight it out. I think we all were hoping and wanting that. But eventually we are going to get it one way or the other. But it is, of course, all eyes on set 2, on the deciding set of the finals between Magnus Carlsen and Wesley. So set 1 has ended in a tie, in a score 2-2 after 2 decisive games. 2 games that showed some beautiful attacking skills of these 2 players. The other 2 games ended in a draw. We will have set 2 tomorrow. Now, chat, another great news and some update that finally we have managed to fix our technical issue. And we are back, Peter. And while we were having those problems, chat stuck it out with us. And they were with us chatting and watching your analysis. There's a lot of love for you, Peter, in chat and your amazing commentary. What would you like to say to everyone watching us right now?
Well, thank you very much for staying with us in difficult times. Yeah, because it's very easy to stay here when everything is perfect. But yeah, this is just fantastic. I mean, very, very nice. Very happy that finally this technical issue is resolved. So for the decisive second day of the grand final, we will have no issue, that's for sure. And I'm really looking forward to, because don't be fooled. I mean, what we have witnessed from Magnus in game 4 and game 2, this not going to happen. I mean, tomorrow with the white pieces in the very first game, we know exactly what Magnus is going to do. He will try to come up with some very, very deep idea, you know, trying to hit Wesley right from the beginning, put him under pressure. And so it's going to be an incredible fight. I'm really looking forward to it, because we have seen that Wesley has such an incredible repertoire from black side that it's so difficult to find that weak spot. So what Magnus and his team will manage to create, that's going to be very, very exciting.
Very exciting indeed, Peter. And as Wesley mentioned himself, so much at stake. So much at stake because neither of these 2 players have a confirmed spot for the September finals. This is the last major of the Champions Chess Tour, and the winner of the tournament gets a direct spot into the finals in September, the grand final. And currently, Magnus Carlsen is the tour leader, and Wesley So's second tour standings, but nothing confirmed for these 2. These are our current tour standings. As you can see, Magnus leading the table, Wesley behind him, second place, the 2 best performers fighting it out in the finals of the final major of the Champions Chess Tour here. And it all comes down to Judgment Day tomorrow. It's do or die for these 2. And with so much at stake, we can only hope that the players recover. Magnus is in shape. Wesley gets his sleep, because we can't wait for all the action. Chat, once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. And we'll be back tomorrow with the deciding set and all the chess action. See you then.
Air quality isn't the first thing that comes to mind when you think about chess and esports, but it affects our focus, decision-making, health, sleep, and more. What's in the air you breathe? Find out with Air Things. Breathe better. Live better.
Freedom! So fresh, so new. Freedom! It's all for you. All for you. Freedom! Keep your ear to the ground. Talking about the freedom. It's the best show in town. Best show in town. Freedom.